Welcome. It's May 8th, and Sunday is Mother's Day here in the US. So happy Mother's Day to all the moms and all the caretakers and all the people who help these humans grow. It's giant. And it's kind of a perfect day for what I'm going to share today because I really want to share my story of how I got here. And one of you, delicious humans, sparked this. So thank you, because it takes a little pulling from me to get me to tell my story sometimes. And so let's do it. There might be many versions of this, but today will be this version. What did I want to say before we get started? Let's settle in because I need that. And then I'm probably going to take the bulk of our time together, 30 to 40 minutes, to unfurl my story that's relevant and relevant to Mother's Day, really, because it really is a story of the evolution and the ever evolving family life, which has been the thrust, the pull, the passion that has really brought me not only to what I know about humans and development, but what I know about myself. And that's maybe the juiciest part of all. So before we jump in, I'm going to close the camera and I'm going to invite everybody just to get with themselves. So just look around, just actually stop for a moment and look at your life right now. And invite your heart just to be open. Imagine seeing through the eyes of your heart. Invite settling, wiggle into the seat that you're in. Put down anything that you might be holding, literally and metaphorically. Let your eyes rest. Let yourself rest for a moment. Notice your breath. Allow it to deepen. A little more time and space in the inhale, a little more time and space in the exhale. Allow a little lightening and loosening. Release and relax, even if it's just a tiny bit. And bring your awareness to your heart. Notice the beating, the rhythm, the pulsing, the aliveness. Say a warm, loving hello to yourself. Your body that senses and loves and allows so much beautiful living to happen, and that beingness that is always there, always with you, always, always, always knowing what you're here for and how you live and love. Just take a moment to feel a sense of content, just for a moment. All is well right now. Be here. Allow, allow, allow. And when you're ready, come on back. Wiggle and shake. Take a drink. We'll get started. So, let me just get another peek at y'all. Thank you. Really, thank you. All right, so here we go. My intention today is to share then, so where I've been, now where I am, and a little bit about what's next in light of what has unfolded. So, two things happened this week that sparked this exact call. One was a very dear, dear, dear client who said, I would love to hear more about your story. When can we do that? And I said, oh, that would be fun. I'd love to share that. Um, so that was one. And then the second was, and this one's like, ooh, the second was that when I was doing my dissertation, which I'm going to share a little bit more about as we go, uh, I did a very unique graduate school program, and I ended up doing a very unique dissertation. And the way I did it was I did a methodology called portraiture, which is about creating a portrait, a written portrait, um, a deep dive into some people's experiences. And so while I was in grad school studying prenatal and perinatal psychology, so babyhood and family life, I had done a deep dive for a while. Basically, I was able to watch these little humans as they were growing at the time of their early life. And what's really fun is that um, one of these people, one of these tiny humans, um, was in the womb while his mom was learning all this stuff. So I was in a very small graduate school program, and we had a cohort of people who were studying this field. And two of them at the time got pregnant while we were there. And the other day, I was on social media looking around, and my good dear friend, who was the mom at the time, posted that her son now is graduating college and in a band doing the thing he's loved since he was a little tiny kid, and really like doing his life with a lovely fullness. And it really brought me back to that time of studying them. I mean, my dissertation, I'll just show you because it's right here. It's one of the things that I put my computer on, but this is the book I wrote back in 2006. And one of the big pieces is this tiny human who was a little kid at the time when I did my dissertation, a baby, and then a little toddler person. And now he's 22 and he's getting ready to launch into his life uh, as an independent person. And it just it just brought so much back from all this understanding that all that has happened in the last 25 years total since I started my PhD, but really like 22 since I did my dissertation. And so um, it got me excited to share. So, how did it all start? As many of you know, I was this tiny little kid who loved being around babies and their moms. And I was just the most curious little kid who just wanted to go and hold the little ones and talk to the moms and have this understanding of what is all this? What is this thing of humans and development? So I just kept going. I just kept following the steps. I was the mother's helper, and then I was a babysitter, which was the part I didn't love the most. And then I studied psychology and I started understanding the mind. And then I decided to go to grad school, and I felt as if this program at a school called the Santa Barbara Graduate Institute, which isn't even, it's not even there anymore. It came and went in a blink almost, just long enough that I could get my PhD and meet some incredible humans. Um, I got this tap on the shoulder one day when I was going through emails that this school was opening. And I knew about it because I was already plugged into the field of pre and perinatal psychology, but there hadn't been any sort of formal program. And this was in August, and in October they were starting their first year, and I jumped. I made the call. I reached out and said, I want in. Did I miss it? Can I come next year? They're like, nope, we haven't started yet. Come on out. And in a matter of like a week, I was leaving Austin. I was going to grad school, and I was living with a family who was about to have twins. They hadn't been born yet, and I was going to live with them. And on top of all of that, I went out to do a workshop with a professor who was doing birth processing work. And I started my own excavation, my own healing journey at the exact same time. So here I was 29. I was moving to Santa Barbara, going back to grad school, living with a family who was about to have twins. So I was a part of their family implicitly for their first year and a half. And then I was also doing my own personal growth work while in a program that was incredibly geared toward all of that. Like my program was very um, personal and experiential and geared toward living what I was learning, not just thinking it. It was all about excavating and not just learning about pre and perinatal psychology, but exploring our own earliest experiences and how vital and important that is to making sense of ourselves and understanding how our nervous systems work and really becoming more aware because the foundation of the entire program was that babies arrive conscious. And as many of you know, I don't even typically use that word very much. I use the word growing ones or growing humans because even when we say baby, to me, it puts them in an other category and they're not other. And that was the seed of this program. And it was the seed of my whole exploration that many of you have now been with me on for the last 20 plus years. Um, so what happened? I did the program, did all the coursework, lived and loved with this family, um, met my cohort of co-travelers in the program and did a lot of growth with them, learned so much about myself, like more than I could have ever imagined. It was like a trap door of my past had been opened and I was tilling and I was learning how to feel emotions. I remember feeling anger and not knowing how to feel anger and feeling like anger was going to swallow me whole. And then having some support and guidance of somebody that was able to say, no, just look at it, see what it has to tell you. And realizing it was a little tiny mouse. It wasn't a giant monster. It was just this little thing that wanted my love and just to be felt. And once I started feeling it, it would just go through. Um, and tears. I learned how to cry again. I hadn't been much of a crier. I cried and cried and cried and cried and cried and cried and felt and felt and felt and felt and learned and learned and learned and got so clear that my dissertation really needed to be about pulling together all of these ideas about humans that really had this foundation in a new paradigm. And that new paradigm being we don't arrive as blank slates, that you don't get a baby and then when they can walk and talk and do all the human things, they become a human. They're always there. And they're not just there, they're wise and they're whole. And the seed of who they are, the essence, the isness, it's always there. It's always, always, always driving, leading, knowing. And I knew that, but I didn't know that. So I wrote my dissertation and I got to study these two classmates and their little ones and their family. I went and lived with them for little periods of time, which was perfect because that's what I had kind of done my whole life was embed myself in families and just watch with curiosity and ask a million questions. Um, and I got through and wrote that paper and I moved back to Austin. And that's when I met many of you, which is like, oh, so touching. And I started working, I started sharing this stuff and I created programs. And none of it was coming from like, well, this is what I'm going to teach. It was all sparked from what people were doing and what they needed. And I, offered like 3-year-old classes, understanding your 3-year-old, because people were like, what do I do with this little one? I did mom and baby classes and all of it, all of it. So this is a little side note, all of the things that I did, the coaching I did and the classes and the programs, all of it had been dreamed in my head before any of it became real. Like that was another piece of this. I was learning pre and perinatal psychology and I got so much out of it. And I had this big idea of like, what if people approached family life with an awareness that their littlest ones are conscious and whole, that they're not blank slates, they're not just needing to be poured in and taught how to be. They already know how to do that. They do need some guidance around how to be here. They do best when they feel the people around them are aware and self aware and clear on what they're about and their own boundaries. And then when there's some support. And that was really the findings of my dissertation. The essence of what my research said was, yes, when we approach this with this new paradigm and this new perspective, it then turns the parent person inward. So, oh, if you're conscious and whole, little one, oh, that means I need to consider and think about and look at myself through that lens. That means I'm going to want to look at the beliefs that I've been carrying around and the things that I absorbed from the people around me, especially if I was born into a family, a culture, a system that didn't have this awareness that we're conscious. So, and what if we did that in circles of support? So that was the findings. And then I brought that to Austin and started living it and testing it and playing with it and creating around it. Um, and then in the midst of all of that, so then I had all these families that I was just enjoying and watching and loving and playing with. And then in the midst of that, I was continuing my own exploration because if I was saying they're conscious and in the little one being conscious, the parents are needing to become more self-aware and more clear and more present in themselves so that their little ones feel them there because that's what they're truly needing for healthy development. Then I need to be testing all of this and figuring out what gets us there and how do we find that kind of alignment with our divine selves and our bigger knowing. So that's been the journey. I've been doing that. And I was lucky enough to, and I dreamed this. I remember like 2007, like late 2007, when I bought my house down in South Austin, which many of you have been to, my first house there. I thought, oh, it'd be so fun to have a group of people. I don't even know if I said women. I think I said people that I can do some creative manifesting, dreaming group work with. And then that January, a friend said, I'm in this group of women and we're looking for some help. Would you be willing? And they showed up at my house. And 18 and a half years later, now we're a group of women that have been meeting. We met regularly for years and now we're still connected and texting most days, but they're my pack. I have a women's group. We actually call ourselves Goodness because that's the feeling we all have with each other, goodness. And so I've had them as my social support growth partners for this almost 2 decades. So as I was sharing all this, continuing to learn, creating things, deepening into myself, I was walking with a pack of people who, are like as deep in my heart as you can get. So, and one of them, Bernadette, I created lots of things with, and her brother is my partner. So that's fun. So that was it. I embodied it. I created programs where I was able to send out daily emails with templates because what I knew was alignment in theory and like knowing myself and being clear in myself was one thing, but it had to be done. That it was a frequency that I was tuning to. And in order to create a resonance with that frequency, I had to be in a daily-ish practice of slowing down, going inward, hearing myself, knowing what my essentials are. And my lifestyle, that whether I chose it or it chose me, allowed me to do that. And I was able to play with these tools and experiment for years now, like years of appreciating and years of setting intentions and years of dreaming. And I got to do it as a solo person until I was 49. And so I was really able to learn this stuff as a sovereign being. And then I got to team up with a fabulous human. And now I've been going a deeper level of it because that's the deal is the relationships. That's a whole other learning, as you all know even better than me. Each human that arrives with their own frequency and isness challenges us and gives us these opportunities to deepen and know ourselves better. And some of that's easy and some of that's hard, but it's all rich and it's all meaningful. And so that kind of takes me into, the teens. I did evolve my program for about 7 years. And then I realized I was complete with that. And then I let that go. And then I started offering stuff around more clarity. And then I moved to Maine. And I spent a few summers leaving Austin because it was so hot and traveling around and giving talks and trying out different places. And in 2017, I sold my house in Austin because my being, similar to Santa Barbara, I just had this knowing, this sense of like, this chapter's complete. I need to go go somewhere else. I needed to go where my soul was like held more fully. And that was a place where I was surrounded by water and I was living in seasons and I was um, able to be outside and participating with the elements every single day, even when it was cold and snowy. I love that. I love each season deeply. They all give me a new version of myself. And there's something about being with the elements that is like almost the thing that cracked it all open in a way. Like there's, I've been moving toward it all, but this theoretical idea that we're consciousness and that the way we consider ourselves and holding that we're not just these bodies, we're not just material, what we can see and touch and taste and smell. Yes, that's an amazing part of being human. And that's like as good as it gets, maybe in this universe. Uh, but there's something else that's animating that is the seed that I've been since I was born, since I was that little 7-year-old who wanted to hold the babies, since I was the 18-year-old picking a college that felt really good and right for me, since I said yes to moving to Austin, since I went back to grad school on a complete whim that changed my entire life. The essence of me was driving it, that I had inklings of that. And after the past 21 years, now, since doing my dissertation and doing the research, which was just play and having fun and meeting all of you and doing the stuff that I love, but really it was this research of like, okay, I wrote this dissertation and I think that when people recognize what their little ones are really all about and take them at way more than the idea that they're just baby people, that they are humans. And I was able to really, let me slow down a minute and just get a little breath. Hold, please. The idea that we would hold humans from this bigger perspective, the divinity, the I know you're really in there and that you're doing everything you can to express what you are and to have the experiences here of life that are so meaningful to you. while looking inward and really understanding ourselves from that perspective and having fields and frequencies and cohorts and groups of people that we're growing with. Like, what happens if we approach all of this with those awarenesses and those tools? And now I'm on the other side of it, and it's not the end at all. I'm just beginning in some ways, but I have tested it, I have walked it. And here's the thing, it doesn't mean I don't get thrown off. It doesn't mean I don't get wobbly. In fact, I was incredibly wobbly yesterday. Like, that was a funny little piece of this, is that, oh, yay, I want to tell my story and I want to share all these little pieces. And then that was 2 days ago. And then yesterday, uh, I'm walking in my, metaphorically walking, and all of a sudden something comes up that I didn't expect, and my system went into the wobbles that are just innate to being human. And it didn't mean it didn't happen, but I felt like I was able to stay with myself and go through it and let it do its thing, knowing that A, I was okay, I was safe. The bigger part of me was able to be there on and off. It wasn't perfect, but it was helpful for me. And I had tools. I knew what to do. I knew how to stay with the feeling and not go into the story. And I knew how to look at the story from a bigger perspective. And I knew that if I went through it and just let it be, I would be back to balance today. And I also knew that it doesn't matter whether I get wobbly or not, because I'm always growing, I'm always expanding. And in my experience, it's those wobbly times that have brought the growth, that have brought me to the new place. So, where am I now? I do feel like I can own that I've been exploring life through this lens and with you all, and these ideas and these knowings feel more deep, and I trust them. And and that's taken me a long time to really, really sink in and say, like, I know this. Like, I knew it, but now I know it. And now it's getting really good and juicy. Um, and the other thing that I really want to say, and it's probably the main piece of why I wanted to do this, is because this stuff that I share, this stuff that I teach, is really just being remembered. And I've been playing in the remembering with all these various tools and things, but the truth is, it's already there and it's already in you. And the things that are drawing you to more of yourself and your passions and your isness, like, that's the beauty of all this, is like, you don't have to learn this. I'm just flipping on some switches and giving you a little experience of one human who can show you a possible way you could unfurl into more of yourself, but you don't need me. You've got it. And so this is just a playscape for us to do this. And I love it. And I love doing it with all of you. Um, and yeah, I think that's it. I mean, there's probably some big like wrap up sentence. Let me see if I wrote anything. Let me share a little bit about what's next. So now that I'm here, doesn't mean I've arrived, but I've certainly, I love this idea of looking back, especially. It's really interesting because I set out at the beginning of the year with this intention of like, wow, it's 2025. I really want to consider the past 25 years. And I was a little bit like, not beating myself up, but like, why haven't I brought more of that to these calls? Like, how come I'm not getting us to do more of the 25-year writing? So that was in there. But what has happened, especially in the last couple months, was I'm living the 25-year reflection more. So the band, going and playing with my band, which was a 25-year ago thing, and then being sparked to remember my dissertation and recognize that the tiny ones who I studied and their families are 20 plus years down the road. And that sparked me to look at my journey since then. So I am really thinking about and playing in the 25 years. It just doesn't look the way I thought it would, which isn't that life. Um, so I love the idea of like noticing the platform from which I'm seeing and being aware. I love noticing the frequency, the resonance that I now hold, which is more me, more cohesive, more coherent, more resonant, more watery than it's ever been. Um, and what I think I do best now, and I think I do it better than I've ever done it, is hold a frequency, hold a space for others to plug into as a way to remember you, as a way to remember the joy, remember the love, remember the isness, remember the passions, the things that light you up. And remember the softness that we're okay. Like it's okay to be soft and release and relax and rest. Um, and so that's what I'm doing, and that's what I want to keep doing. And this summer, I'm creating an opportunity for us to play with feasting on this season. Like I love all the seasons, but summer to me is this like, let's sit at the picnic table and eat the watermelon and go for the swim and pick the flowers and get our toes in the grass. And so I want to hold that resonance and invite people on these Thursday classes to do that. I'm also going to be inviting people to reach out and have some one-on-one time with me because I want to be a witness and a facilitator of your then, now, next. So I'll be sharing a little bit more about that. Um, I'm writing more. I'm trusting my voice more. I'm getting more in touch with this, these 25 years plus all the years before that. So 54 years total as of this summer. Like bringing out my cariness. Like, here you go. Let me share my whole heart and soul in a way that I was a little protective of before. Like, I'm ready to be more, let the vibes out a little differently. Um, yeah, I want to support people to know themselves more deeply, always, but I really want that to be even more of a frontward intention, to be in awe of your people because oh my gosh, the thing that's probably one of the biggest things about the past 25 years is watching you all grow, the adult people that I met as adults grow. But when I reconnect with the ones, whether it's in person or online, and I see these humans that I met either in the womb or as little baby or little toddlery people. And now they're moving into college, high school, post high school, young adulthood, even later 20s, because that's how long I've been at this. Um, it's powerful and it's big. And I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, they don't arrive to themselves with that much awareness because that's really a lot of what I see is these young humans that I've witnessed are like themselves, like really themselves. And I'm not, and I will take, I will say that the lens that they came into of parents who were considering them as people and walking alongside them with an open heart and trust and love, not every minute, not at all, but more and more, even if it was just a little bit, and doing their own work and getting support. What I see is that they are who they are, and they are much of the time connected to their parents, like in a way that I don't see in my generation all the time. And there's a light that is on, and it is deep, and it's beautiful. And I know you see it in your people too. And so I trust it. Like that's the thesis essence statement, is like, okay, I can finally say this book of however many pages that I wrote doing my dissertation, and it all being kind of theoretical and me wondering, is this real and can I trust it? It's like, not a question. I trust the shit out of this. Um, and I know that walking this path of evolution, being with them differently, being with ourselves differently, being together differently, there's a limitlessness to it. There's so much possibility. So that's what I'm doing. That's the story. There's way more to it. I'll share more differently another day, but for now, I just want to say thank you. Um, I am turned on. I am here to radiate. I am all about helping anybody that wants to explore themselves more and deepen. And I will keep showing up for this. And we're going to have a big old fun summer party. So I hope you will join me. And on that note, I'm going to pause, invite a breath, and I'm going to turn off the recording and open up the conversation, because I would love to hear if anybody has questions or thoughts or comments. And if you need to go, thank you for being here. And thank you for being present for that. That was very meaningful for me. Mm.